Hi, my name is Dave Mountain. I'm a marketing consultant at marketing&advertising and today we're going to talk about innovation at the glimpse level. This is primarily useful for emails and banners, but hopefully it'll give you a bit of an insight into some of the ways that we work here at M&AD and maybe give you an idea or two to take into your own campaigns. So, what do we refer to at innovation at the glimpse level like? And what we're thinking about here is when you have an image specifically that is new to the category, relevant to the prospect, easy to parse, and very different from what you're currently doing or your control. This should produce significantly different metrics. It may produce more click, it may produce more engagement, it may produce more sales, it may produce more long-term value. But the goal is to have very different materials that hopefully are producing very different results so that you can have an if-then process starting up for your testing rather than just throwing some stuff against the wall and seeing what quote-unquote works better on just one metric. The goal here with all of this stuff is to find the next thing to test. And the next thing to test is often found by having things that don't work. So testing is something that you should always have on in some capability, and you should also be back testing against your prior assumptions. Moving on. It's important to understand that as marketers, we stress over the finest tiny details of things. We have to. It's the only professional thing to do, and anyone that's deeply involved in the work knows that it's harmful to the brand if the details aren't sweated. If you have typos, if you have kerning mistakes, if you have artifacts or whatever else is going on, that's not great for your brand. It's not good for the internal confidence of your team. It's not good for a whole host of things. However, if you sweat these details so much, keep in mind that sometimes this is stuff that really only you are seeing. I once had a client in a banner spot that required fine print that was roughly 4-point. Impossible to read. Had to be there for legal qualifications. And they insisted also that it had to be also in the correct font. The only way to know that it would be in the correct font would be to save the ad, magnify it at 600%, and then be a font expert. We always made sure the font was right because they checked it every time, and I'm certain they were the only ones that ever did or cared. And all of that was billable hours. On some level, perfection can be its own trap, and that's defensible if, in some rare cases, if your brand is that airtight or if the prospects are that high value or if the real audience for this is purely management, okay. Not great, but okay. But keep in mind what this is costing you. And what this is costing you isn't just billable hours at revision levels, but it's also costing you a culture of testing. Because if you're sweating these tiny details, you're going to exhaust a creative team and everyone else involved from trying to swing for bigger fences. The outside world sees your work for an infinitesimal percentage that you see it. Maybe as little as a fraction of a second if it's a poorly performing email list or if it's a very cluttered ad page. If you're getting deep into the weeds of a paragraph and you're doing so in the wake of a striking graphic element and you're priding yourself because you found this thing, keep in mind you found this thing. How many other people found this thing? This matters much more in banners than emails. Emails have a much greater shelf life and could be later reviewed to see the mistake, and this matters much more for prospects than customers. I'm not trying to excuse shoddy work. I'm not trying to excuse poor QA. I strive to provide airtight QA, but keep in mind airtight QA comes at a price. Testing, when you come to images, needs to be on strong differences. And that means that when you're looking at these materials, you need to know the ads are different within a half a second. And if you don't know the ads are different within a half a second, you're not testing a strong enough difference. A really good way to get an idea of how to create innovation at the glimpse level is to cheat. Look at what your competitors are doing. Look at advertising work on Moat, on really good emails. There are a host of other sites. You could probably also just find them straight out with Google image search. If your competition has significant resources, they are likely to be testing. And if you can go back in their history and see something that looks like the innovative idea that you were about to pitch or try, and discover they tried it and then they stopped trying it pretty soon after, that's a bit of a clue. Your innovative idea may have already failed. This doesn't mean that it will fail now, because recent testing and back testing is criminally underused in a lot of optimization, but it's worth knowing. I also really have seen some wins out of looking at indirect competitors. So let's say you're a high-end luxury goods manufacturer and you want to sell materials to the home audience. Who is that home audience? Also the people buying high-end luxury automobiles. See what those folks are doing. Also the people who have high-end travel needs. See what those folks are doing. Does it give you some ideas, especially when it comes to testing? The mindset to create a new, entirely innovative image is where agencies pay their bills. Some will create entire rooms where their target demo lives, and to give the creative team the best possible sense of being in that person's headspace. So they'll play only music that person would listen to, or they'll have lighting or decor choices or books or etc. This is excessive, but you can get most of the benefit out of this beneficial exercise strictly with a whiteboard exercise. Put it on the board for 5 minutes, take your creative team, ask them specific questions about their prospect. Male or female, urban, suburban, glasses, no glasses, tell me the car they kind of drive, tell me the music they listen to, give them a name, and now you can start to empathize. And what really starts to happen out of these innovative glimpse images are moments of empathy and shifts of perspective. You have to look at your work, and this is very difficult sometimes, because as marketers, we're going to go into the weeds, and we're going to live in those weeds for a good long while. You have to have an outsider perspective. You have to keep reminding yourself, would this matter if I did not work here? Would this matter if this was not my paying client? Would this matter if I were entirely new to this category, or if I were actively considering a competitor? It keeps things from preaching to the choir. And you don't need to subscribe to the idea that only an agency can come up with that for you, or that only you'll get that out of a focus group, or you'll need to hire the magic creative director. You can get there. You can get there with testing, you can get there with research, you can get there with brainstorming, you can get there with empathy. Understand, keep in mind what your outside prospect is most important to them, and cut the amount of time that they're spending with your materials, and you'll get most of the way there. I'm going to give you 3 examples from my past career. The first was of where this approach really paid dividends. The first was for a personals ad. So I was working for a banner place that worked in this category, and it had a number of competitors. So we were able to see insights, and we were able to see metrics out of all the different people that were performing, all different companies that were advertising in the space. And what everybody did was they brought in Photoshop level models, they showed free functionality or free searches, and they showed functionality for your area. Happy couple, beautiful faces, eye contact with the participant, If you saw one, you saw them all. And we had a new-to-file client that attempted to do their own version of that. And the couples weren't as attractive, the functionality didn't exist, the free offer didn't exist. The ad tanked. And the ad was going to keep tanking. So the sales account executive came to me and said, hey, we're going to lose them. Can you pitch? And I thought about it for a long while, worked with my team, and wound up pitching them a couple of different ideas, the most notable of which was to get away from the image of happy, generic, smiling couple and instead focus on hands. Because the hands got away from the model problem, and the hands were also showing matching wedding bands. And what that did was it spoke to the seriousness of this offer. This wasn't about meeting singles in your area. It was about finding someone that you were going to spend the rest of your life with. It was a fundamentally different offer. We pitched this to the client, and they were not a fan. They thought it looked too much like a jewelry ad. It was off-brand. It was yada, yada, yada. But they were fine. We're leaving this contract at the end of the week anyway, so sure, try it. And then it crushed. Not so much on response, but much more on conversion, because it spoke to the unique selling proposition of that client. It spoke to the difference that they were achieving as opposed to everybody else. The client was eHarmony, by the way. We had another client that was interested in short-term personal loans. Everybody in the space showed a big fan of money. They looked like lottery ads. They spoke to how fast you would get the loan and how easy it was to get the loan. And everybody resold prospects in this category. There was no real strong competitive point to talk about. So what we did was we had a moment of empathy. We thought about who are the people taking out these not terribly great loans, these very fast, very desperate loans. And we got a demographic. The demographic were caregivers. The demographic were people who were not engaging in risky, poor behavior. They were doing desperate things for absolutely essential reasons. They were getting a child their medical coverage. They were fixing dentistry issues. They were getting their car repaired so they could continue to get to work. We showed those images rather than fans of money. We didn't get as many clicks, but we got a lot more conversions. And we led to a net win to the client. You have to measure beyond just one funnel point, but that moment of empathy, that moment of this isn't a lottery customer, even if it may be somebody who eventually buys some lottery stuff as well, it is someone who is engaging in thoughtful, reasoned behavior. Have a moment of empathy for that and honor their choice. Another category we've done a lot of work in is life insurance. Everybody in the life insurance space once upon a time would show the exact same image. It got to the point where we were able to call out the royalty-free number they were getting out of the Getty catalog. Nuclear family, happy dog, beach, because this speaks to the moment of when somebody is interested in buying life insurance, right? You've now got something to protect. You've got a new family, and you're going to take out life insurance. Demographically works, glimpse level works, however, all the ads look the same. We then started to think, is this really the best point? These children, one of them has been around for a while. They're only thinking about life insurance now. Maybe it should be happy couple with an infant. Maybe it should be expectant couple. And we were able to try a bunch of different approaches in a bunch of different places. And we learned that new child, definitely. Expectant child, no. If then, testing mindset. Rather than just keep doing the same thing that you're doing, or maybe just playing with some headline text, show something that looks very different to the user at a glimpse. Get innovative and make it quick. Innovation in email is a key to testing. It adds to effectiveness, it cuts through clutter, it teaches you things that you're not going to learn from small moves. It also can run into brand police moments or pushback from conservative management. Know your audience, know what you can pitch, but push for it. Testing is not optional, testing is life to any marketing person that's looking to get into a virtuous learning cycle. Make your tests if-then, not A-B. Encourage engagement. Get direct response from prospects, users, teammates, etc. Embrace the journey. And if you would like someone to guide you, give us a call, give us an email, visit the website. Thanks. Good luck.